I want to talk to you about death. A third of workers now plan to retire older than age 70 or even never.
When faced with your own mortality, people tend to cling on to things harder. It feels like a rehearsal for dying, not leaving a job.
Man wants to leave something behind. He wants it left behind the way he made it.
It's almost never a fear of death. It's almost always a fear of whether or not there will be a legacy. Best part of life, right?
Mortal leadership. Hi, I'm Jill Wildfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into topics that corporate leaders need to care about. I want to talk to you about death. Yeah, death. So you may be thinking that's a little off topic for a podcast on corporate leadership, but is it? Experts point to a very real connection between modern society's inability to handle death and our professional incapacity to embrace workplace transitions. Interesting, right? So that starts with retirement and the fact that we have a record number of baby boomers hanging on to jobs that others need. One survey found that a third of workers now plan to retire older than age 70 or never. It also includes a host of CEOs and board directors who are overstaying their welcome. In fact, we recently did an episode on CEOs, and in the case of the directors, the tenure now often exceeds 10 years. And it's not just older professionals who are seemingly hanging on for dear life. The once carefree Gen Zers now say they want to stay with one company for 7 years, more than double the average reported by workers overall. Such reluctance to move on, of course, leads to transitions that get unnecessarily messy. Relationships turn toxic, business suffers, innovation and growth are stifled. But some say if we can learn to end life with more grace, we will be better able to handle life's multitude of transitions, including those in the workplace. So today, let's try and learn how we can all adjust a little bit better to the finitude of both life and work as we explore our own mortal leadership. Before we start, if you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts on this topic. Today, I am joined by Roger Philby. He's global lead of Korn Ferry's people strategy and performance practice. Roger's worked with lots of executives through various stages of their careers and has a lot of firsthand experience with the difficulties people face in making these types of career transitions. Roger, it's really good to have you here.
Thanks, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Glad to have you. So I want to start by asking you about this connection between death and the difficulty people have with workplace transitions. You've talked about something called terror management theory. Might explain what's going on in the psyche of most professionals. Tell me more.
Terror management theory is kind of cool, I think, and it suggests that when faced with your own mortality, people tend to cling on to things harder that gives them identity and significance. I think terror management theory explains a lot about how executives feel. So actually career transitioning, when you put it in the mind of terror management theory, feels like a rehearsal for dying, not leaving a job.
Yeah. The stakes are high there, Roger. My gosh. Talk a little bit about, so you've spoken about how it can be problematic when people can get too comfortable in their roles. What does too comfortable look like in the workplace, and why is that a bad thing?
What you'll see is the things that don't happen. People stop asking questions. They stop challenging the status quo, or they start defending the status quo. Oh, we've tried that before. It hasn't worked. We won't do that again. And it becomes about risk. Like, I don't want to take outsized risk. I'm far too comfortable to do that. What happens is you start to see things like people stay in roles for too long. And then the real danger is you start killing innovation.
Bill, why at this juncture are you letting yourself be so concerned by business matters?
I don't want anybody buying up my life's work, turning it into something it wasn't meant to be. A man wants to leave something behind. He wants it left behind the way he made it. He wants it to be run the way he ran it, with a sense of honor, of dedication, of truth. Okay?
That's a scene from the movie Meet Joe Black, in which Brad Pitt as Death has come to take Anthony Hopkins, who plays a CEO, keen on keeping his company's legacy intact despite his impending demise. So, Roger, as we said off the top, a third of workers now plan to retire older than age 70 or even never. So it seems many professionals are facing kind of a similar dilemma around letting go. You've suggested one possible solution that you've seen work at a client company is setting an actual mandatory retirement age. Talk a bit about why you think that system works so well.
I think setting a mandatory retirement age is a really humane policy because it takes the burden of letting go off the individual. Like it's there, right? You know it's going to happen. So it reframes the exit as part of a natural rhythm of leadership. Right? Not a failure or a fall from grace or you just stay too long, pal, but actually a purposeful date at which you can start planning. I think boundaries create freedom, right? So but by defining an endpoint, you actually free the leaders to focus on their legacy rather than longevity.
What about those younger workers whom we mentioned now want to cling to a job a little longer and who may not even have any ambition, right, to move up a corporate ladder at all? These are those so-called kind of the conscious unbossing trend, right, that we're seeing. And I think last we saw nearly 3 in 4 Gen Z workers say they'd rather be individual contributors than middle managers. What's your best advice to motivate that section of the workforce to kind of step out of their comfort zone?
We have to tap into what motivates our younger people. And what motivates our younger people is impact, influence, creativity. So if we reframe the role of a leader into this is a place where you can have impact, you can have influence, and you can be truly creative. And we help them co-create that. So it's not a job description. It's about outcomes and impact. We go to sort of an expectation of them, which is, I think, the problem some of my generation have, into actually our job is to inspire them to move. I think their view is, I don't need a promotion to move. I need a mission.
I want to end by returning to why this matters so much. You've talked about how something you call organizational compression could spell disaster for companies if they don't figure out how to better transition their workforce forward. Talk about that.
The longer I stay in a role, the more comfortable I get and the more of the role below I do, right?
Yeah.
And we see this all the time in organizations, and I'm always challenging leaders on, if you're a leader, your job is the next 2 to 3 years. Why are you worrying about today's figures? The people below you should be worrying about that, and they should, and so forth. And so if I'm a leader and, I'm on the C-suite and I'm looking at today's trading figures, I'm actually doing the job of the person below. If I'm doing the job of the person below, the job of that person is they're doing the one below, and you get this compression. And my view is that if you can start removing some of the compression, you'll release productivity in the workforce.
Well, Roger, thanks so much for coming on and inspiring us and sharing your insights with us. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Jill. Lovely.
We've looked at what companies can do to help workers transition better. After the break, we'll talk to a bereavement therapist on lessons in letting go that can be applied to the professional world. So stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Leadership. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business.
Carve-outs, divestitures, spin-offs, they've been a major theme.
A significant number of mid and large-sized publicly traded U.S. firms have recently announced intentions to spin off parts of their business. Experts say this stems from a lack of growth within the parent company, and that many leaders hope spin-offs can provide a jolt to their organizations in the form of successful spin-off IPOs.
Ransomware attacks have grown increasingly brazen.
Phishing attacks are up 1,265% this year, which could mean serious trouble for many companies. Cybersecurity pros say firms would be wise to focus on resilience, like disaster recovery that restores critical systems and data, as well as business continuity strategies that allow companies to keep functioning, like, for example, switching over to browser-based functions.
Over the past 2 months, I've applied to over 500 jobs.
Applications on LinkedIn alone have surged more than 45% in the past year. Experts say it's a symptom both of the tight job market and AI's impact on the application process. They advise firms to keep refining their AI tools, to reconsider HR staffing, and to offer better training in detecting fake applicants who clog up the hiring process. For more insights from This Week in Leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights. Now back to Jill in our episode, Mortal Leadership.
To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause.
We're back talking about the connection between death and the inability to cope with workplace transitions. With us now is Elizabeth Schandelmeyer, a grief, loss, and bereavement therapist who has helped countless people deal with the ultimate transition from life to the hereafter. But we're going to talk to her a little bit and see what lessons we can learn to help us with the smaller transitions we all face. Of course, what I'm talking about in our professions is this transition away from jobs and shifting to other things. Elizabeth, it's really great to have you on.
Oh, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
So that last clip was from Shakespeare's famous To Be or Not to Be soliloquy from the play Hamlet, where Kenneth Branagh as Hamlet muses that the fear of what comes after death gives us pause. Your work with grieving clients is, of course, far more weighty than a career transition, but you have said that almost every fear we have boils down to a fear of death. Tell me what you mean when you say that.
Sure. So that is a thought that comes from Ernest Becker's terror management theory, which basically describes the existential fears that we have of our own mortality. When we're experiencing this existential anxiety, it really leads to our journey for seeking purpose and meaning in our life, and our identity and how we place ourselves in our career, in our life, in our family, in our community, in the world around us. And so when that is disrupted, it can really lead to some crisis moments for folks.
You've also talked about how when people are in the state of fear about what comes next, they shut down their creative self and stop thinking about future possibilities.
Absolutely.
How would you coach, say, a seasoned executive to shift from a state of fear to a more positive outlook on their life after work? What would you say to them?
Sure. So I think a part of it is recognizing, what are we actually afraid of? When you stop to really sort of dig into what's behind that fear with a person who is actually dying, it's almost never a fear of death itself. It's almost always a fear of either what it feels like to die or whether or not there will be a legacy. How will people remember them? Will they continue to exist in the world once their physical presence is gone? So if a person is transitioning out of a very important critical role, what is the legacy that you can leave to ensure that you have really left your thumbprint, your personal thumbprint on that organization? Can you create a mentorship program that bears your name, or dedicate a building that has your name, or whatever it might be?
What would you say to the leader who's afraid to take that next step forward because of what they might miss out on? What are some words that can help them reframe that process?
When we're thinking about how and why we're important in the world, certainly our workplace is a huge part of that. But starting to think about the legacy that we can leave for the folks that are not a part of our workplace. How can we start being more involved? How can we start being more significant to the people who have supported us all along? Maybe our family, maybe our community, maybe our friends. Who have been the people who have supported me and helped and enabled me to get to this position? And what parts of me have they missed out on because I have been so involved in this organization, how can I bring those parts of myself to the people that I love and care about? And really starting to transform your sense of significance and importance away from an organization and into the people in your life who value you the most.
I love it. It's a beautiful way to kind of reframe and get excited about what's next, which is
absolutely the best part of life, thing. Right?
Exactly. Thank you so much. It's been great to have your truly unique perspective on this topic. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya and Zachary Dorr. And it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, Peter Loria, and Megan Walsh. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time. Play Oprah, and you just remind me of Oprah.